तपस्वाध्यायशुश्रूषा कृष्णपूजारतं मुनिं विश्वेशमिष्टदं वन्दे परिव्राट्चक्रवर्तिनं श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः. Hari Om to all. Welcome back to Bhagavad Gita session. Today we are going to look at Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 25. In the previous verse, Krishna described the self or Atma as indestructible, unchanging and all-pervading. Now, Arjuna may still think, if the Atma is like this, why did not I experience it directly? Krishna answers that question in this verse. Atma is not available for ordinary perception. It is subtle and beyond the senses. Let us look at the verse first. Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 25. Avyaktoyamachintyoyam avikaryoyamuchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochitumarhasi. Avyaktaha, unmanifest or not perceptible. I am this Atma. Achintyaha, inconceivable or beyond thought. I am this Atma. Avikaryaha, unchanging or without modification. I am this Atma. Uchyate is said. Tasmat, therefore, evam, thus, viditva, knowing, enam, this, na, not, anushochitum, to grieve, arhasi, you should. Simple meaning of this verse: the self or Atma is unmanifest, inconceivable and unchanging. Knowing this, you should not grieve. Let us look at the detailed explanation of this verse. Avyaktaha ayam. The Atma is unmanifest. Atma cannot be seen by eyes. Atma cannot be heard by ears. Atma cannot be touched by senses. Because Atma is not an object. Everything we perceive is external and material. But Atma is the subject. Atma is the knower. So, Atma cannot be seen like an object. That is why he is avyaktaha. Atma is unmanifest. And another quality of Atma, achintyaha ayam. Atma is beyond thought. The mind works within concepts, comparisons, and limitations. Atma is beyond all this. So it cannot be fully grasped by imagination or speculation. It can only be understood through realization and inner clarity. So he is achintyaha. Atma is beyond thought. Another quality of Atma, avikaryaha ayam. Atma is unchanging. All material things undergo changes. Birth or start, growth, transformation, decay. All these things are there for material things. But Atma does not go through any modification. It remains exactly the same in all conditions. That is why he is avikaryaha. Atma is unchanging. Who says this? It is not my imagination. It is described in scriptures. Uchyate. It is declared. This is not personal opinion. This is established knowledge. This is revealed truth given by those who have understood reality. So it is not my personal opinion. Atma has these three qualities and you must understand it. Tasmat evam viditva. Therefore, knowing this, Krishna now connects knowledge to life. If you truly understand the Atma is unmanifest, Atma is beyond thought, Atma is unchanging, then your perspective must change. Therefore, knowing this, na anushochitu marhasi. Once you know this, you should not grieve. Grief comes from attachment or misunderstanding or identifying with the body. Once you understand the Atma, grief loses its basis. So, Krishna is directly addressing Arjuna, your sorrow is due to wrong identification. So, you must understand this. You must understand the Atma's description. Atma is not visible. Atma is not thinkable. Atma is not changeable. So, Atma cannot be affected by death or destruction or separation. You must understand this. Once you understand, you don't have to grieve. Why Krishna is saying this? Arjuna's grief is based on what he sees, what he thinks. Krishna now shows reality is beyond both. So, your sorrow based on limited perception is not valid. Because we try to understand everything through senses and mind. But the Atma is beyond senses and beyond mind. So, it must be understood differently through knowledge and realization. Once you understand this, you should not be worried about destruction of Atma or anything. What other acharyas say about this verse? Shankaracharya ji says, Atma is unmanifest because it cannot be perceived by the senses. Atma is inconceivable because it cannot be grasped by the mind. Atma is unchangeable because it has no parts and undergoes any transformation. All objects that we see or think about or experience are subject to change. But the Atma is beyond all of them. That is why he is avyaktaha, unmanifest, achintyaha, inconceivable, and avikaryaha, immutable. Since the Atma is beyond perception, beyond thought, and beyond change, it can never be destroyed. Therefore, you should not grieve thinking, I am killing or they are killed. What cannot be seen, what cannot be changed, what cannot be destroyed. That is your true nature. So, Atma is avyakta, achintya and avikarya. So, you should not grieve thinking I am killing or they are killed. What Ramanujacharya ji says, Atma is unmanifest, avyaktaha, because it cannot be perceived by the senses, being completely beyond material existence. Atma is inconceivable, achintyaha, because the mind which understands only material things and cannot grasp it. Atma is unchangeable, avikaryaha, because it is transcendental and not subject to any modification. Since the Atma is beyond perception, beyond thought, and beyond change, it is eternal and immortal. Therefore, there is no reason to grieve, as nothing real is ever lost. What Madhvacharya ji says? Madhvacharya ji says, Atma and Paramatma, these are the two different things. Paramatma means he is Supreme Lord. He is inconceivable. Paramatma is achintyaha. The Supreme Lord is inconceivable by nature, because he is all pervading yet not visible. not because he is absent, but because he is beyond sense, perception, and mental grasp. His inconceivability is his own inherent power, not dependent on anything external. Paramatma reveals himself only by his own will. So, this is the Paramatma's nature, Paramatma's quality. What is the quality or nature of the Jivatma? The individual soul or individual Atma shares the same quality and nature as the Supreme Lord. But Jivatma is insignificant in quantity. Jivatma is eternal. Jivatma is subtle. But Jivatma is dependent on the Supreme Lord. Thus, the Atma, Jivatma, is like a reflection or spark of the Supreme Reality. What is the nature of Supreme Lord's form? Supreme Lord, that is Paramatma, has a spiritual and transcendental form. The Paramatma is also described as formless because his form is not material. Paramatma's body is not made of elements. The Panchabhautika Sharira. It is not Panchabhautika Sharira. Not separate from him. Paramatma's body fully identical with his essence. Paramatma is himself his form. No distinction between body and soul or body and Atma with Paramatma. Why he is not perceived? Even though Atma exists within us, still we fail to perceive it clearly. So, if one cannot perceive one's own inner consciousness properly, how can one comprehend the Supreme Lord? Ignorance is the barrier, not absence. So, Paramatma is not perceived because of ignorance, not because of absence. There are so many contradictions in scriptures. Yes, contradictions in scriptures about the Lord's form or formless, one or many, manifest or unmanifest, are not real contradictions. They arise due to limited human understanding or contextual descriptions. In reality, all attributes of the Lord are perfectly harmonious. So if we are not studying the scriptures, if we are not understanding the scriptures, if you don't know how to connect the dots, then we will end up in confusion. Then these contradictions arises. There are many incarnations of the God, but unity of all manifestations we have to understand. All incarnations of the Supreme Lord are fully divine, have no essential differences. There are forms like Narasimha, Kurma, Rama, Krishna, Varaha, Vamana, Parashurama are all complete expressions of the same supreme reality. If there are differences, those differences are only in function or context or manifestation, not in the essence. So, Paramatma's quality is absolutely different from the soul, because Paramatma is Swatantra and Jivatma is Paratantra. So then what is the relations between Atma and Paramatma? Paramatma is independent. The Jivatma is eternally connected to the Supreme Lord, Paramatma. Jivatma is never independent. Jivatma exists under Supreme Lord's control or Paramatma's control. So, the Lord, Supreme Lord is independent, Swatantra, and Jivatma is dependent, Paratantra. So, what is the goal of Jivatma? Moksha. That is liberation. Liberation means freedom from the birth and death and a realization of the Supreme Lord. Most importantly, moksha is possible only by the grace of the Supreme Lord, not by effort alone. If I did all these good things, I will get the moksha. You will have a good deeds in your bag. Until God decides to give a moksha or grace a moksha, we have to wait, because He is the only person can grace the moksha. So, ultimate conclusion is the Supreme Lord is the source of everything. All powers, knowledge and existence arises from Him. All beings are sustained by Him. All Vedic scriptures ultimately point to devotion to the Supreme Lord as the highest goal of the life. So, in this verse, what Krishna is saying, body is temporary, Atma is eternal, Lord is supreme and independent. When one realizes I am an eternal soul, dependent on Supreme Lord, then ignorance ends, sorrow ends, liberation begins. Atma reflects the Lord, but only the Lord is the source. Knowing this, one moves from illusion to liberation. This is what Madhvacharya's explanation for this verse. What Keshava Kashmiriji says, Atma is unmanifest, avyakta, because it cannot be seen or perceived like material objects. Because it is unmanifest, it is inconceivable, achintya. It cannot be imagined or compared to anything in the material world. Since it cannot be perceived or conceived, it is also unchangeable, avyaktaha. It undergoes no transformation. Unlike material substances such as milk turning into yogurt. So, Atma is beyond perception, beyond imagination, beyond change. Therefore, there is no reason for sorrow. Lamentation arises only from misunderstanding its true nature. So give up, know this, and you are free from sorrow. We have to look at this Kathopanishad verse to understand what exactly Atma is. Indriyebhya parah kirtah arthebhyascha param manah manasastu para buddhihi buddheratma mahan parah. The objects of the senses are higher than the senses. The mind is subtler than the objects. The intellect is higher than the mind. And beyond the intellect is the Atma. Our eyes and senses can perceive only material objects. But the Atma is beyond material energy. So it can't be seen, touched or measured. Even the mind and intellect, which are subtler than the body, cannot fully grasp the soul because they are still part of material nature. The Atma is subtler than the subtlest, beyond senses, beyond mind, beyond intellect. That is why no experiment can detect the Atma. No instrument can measure Atma. So, Atma cannot be known through senses, known through science, known through intellect alone. Atma can be known only through scriptures, Guru, and inner realization. So, Krishna gives the final clarity in this verse. The Atma is unmanifest, Atma is beyond thought, Atma is unchanging. So, grief based on physical loss is misplaced. If I depend on what I see, I suffer. If I understand what truly is, I become free. So, Krishna concludes by saying, Nanu shochitu marhasi. Understand this clearly and give up sorrow. Krishna's teachings will continue. What happens next, that we will see in the next session. Until that, Hari Om to all. God bless you all. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramayah. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschit dukkhavag bhavet. Om Shantihi. Om Shantihi. Om Shantihi. Om Sham.